Hello again folks, and welcome to one of the Glasgow South Model Tram and Rail Group workshops. I said in the previous workshop that we're doing that I was going to do the Chinese manufacturer Hornby Duchess overhaul, and I managed to get one off the internet classed as an unrunner, and it came in the post, and on inspection the valve gear on one side didn't look in the position it should be in. It just didn't look right, and I had another one, and when I set the coupling rods to the bottom on both of them, you could see that one of them, the one I got, was in a totally different position, you know, and I'll let you see this once I've got the camera set up for that. Secondly, when I powered up the motor, it was smoke everywhere, so I knew there was something not right with that. So I'll set the camera up now and we'll let you see what happened. Okay folks, here we are now. Now you can see from this that when the coupling rods are at the bottom, this should be dead down vertical, and it wasn't. It was away over here somewhere, which put the whole valve gear totally out, and I wasn't sure how to rectify that. I wasn't sure how to rectify it, but I just pushed with my finger and it moved forward, which meant that the crank pin that goes through the wheel must have moved out of position. So that solved that, no problems. I got that out of the way, and as I say, she's in practically new condition, and once we start the workshop, then the way I found it was I had another locomotive, another Duchess. I've actually got, I think, 6 of them now, and I had this one, which, if you put it, it's the exact same. The thing's vertical, and it's vertical down the way. If you bring it up, you see it's vertical up the way, and that's how I solved the problem with that. So if you ever get a local like that, just try pushing the thing forward a wee bit, this bit here, forward a wee bit, and if the crank pin is moved, it will put it back into position. No problem with that. As well as that, the mechanism was slightly different from what the ones I've worked on before, and I wasn't sure how to separate the tender frame from the motor itself. I eventually discovered how to do it. So we'll get started with the overhaul and we'll be back shortly. Move on to the motor bogie itself. Now, those of you who have seen the other workshop I did on cleaning up the commutator, just bear with us, by the way, and because some of you haven't seen it, and I think we can make this easier by putting that underneath it. See that? Oh, the other way about, maybe that way. There we are now. Now, the first thing we've got to do is undo these 2 screws, but as we undo them, we've got to keep this with our finger on this, because in there's the brushes and the springs. Now, I can't emphasise this enough, if these springs spring, you'll never find them again. So you've got to be really, really careful. Secondly, get something to put the parts in. Now I've got a wee tin here, just get wee bits and pieces in it, but that's what I'll do. I'll put them in there, and then we know we've got them. So there we are, I've got them. So I'm going to start to strip this and get my trusty set of screwdrivers here. So we put our finger on there to hold that in, and we just turn that screw. I know I'm kind of hiding it with my fingers, but there's not a lot I can do about it. And then take the screw out and put it in the tin. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You've just got to release this at a very gentle. It's a bit of a footer at times. Get our tweezers and all, we're back to our, I don't know how many times I've actually said that, we're back to our tweezers. So you see that's that out of the way. Now the next stage is to get your tweezers in and catch the spring. Now I can see here that for some reason this spring doesn't want to come out. I'm going to have to fit a new spring to this once I get it out, because it's just jammed all together. So that's that out. I don't think I think we'll have to wait till we get this face plate off before we can get the brush off. So we do the same again on the other side, finger on it. Out comes the screw. Gently. And those two should just kind of flap up. I'm trying to let you see this, guys. You know, come on. Right, so that's that out of the way, and then I think this spring's probably going to do the same thing. Nice. I'm going to leave that in there now. I'm going to go to the next stage. On the back of it, you'll see there's two holes. One there, and inside there, there's a wee kind of, how do you describe it? A wee latching bit of plastic, a wee peg, that's what I would say, and that's got to be lifted up. What am I doing? That's got to be lifted up to release the faceplate. Trouble is getting to see it. And that should release the faceplate. You shouldn't have, on this particular model, you should not have to take the wheels off. Just got to leave it, two wee pegs hold it in place, so you've got to lever it up over the pegs, two wee metal dowels. Proving stubborn. Come on. I'll be back in a minute, folks. This is proving quite... Oh, hello again. I managed to get the motor block separated from the tender frame eventually, and the commutator was in quite a bit of a mess. I'll zoom in, and as you can see, it's still quite mucky, but it was a lot worse than that when I first opened it up. And contrary to what I said before, the faceplate, you can't get it off without taking the centre wheels out. I actually thought the faceplate didn't go down as far as here. I thought it came up, but it doesn't. So you've got to take the tender centre wheels out, and to do that you've got to separate this from that. So I'm going to get my apparatus together and clean this up. I also found that these three solder joints which hold the cord and wire together, I found that they were pretty duff. There was solder splattered right across here. I've cleaned that up a wee bit, and I've resoldered the three joints. I've tested it with the multimeter, which I'll show you in a wee minute, and the two sets of segments read 11.9 ohms, the third one 12. That's fine with that reading. I've got no problem with that. So I'll lay this down flat, and once I find my T-cut, here it is now, we'll get started. Got our cotton buds as we always do. I'll zoom out a wee bit so that I've got a wee bit more, so I don't put my hands out the way. Just a wee bit T-cut on the cotton bud, and like I did in the last video, some of you may not have seen it, of course, but I did one of these videos before on a ringfield motor. Now, as I said, I'm using T-cut for car paintwork, and as I've said in the last video, others use various different types of liquid that I don't recommend, namely lighter fuel or Brasso. Brasso, in my opinion, is too coarse. This is for car paint work, so it's a caramel cleaner, but other folk have got different ways of working, and I've got to accept that. It's difficult for you to see this because you've got to make sure we've got all the carbon deposits off. I did power this up before I started this video, and there was a bit of smoke coming off the motor. which at the time I thought this is not good. I thought I was going to have to order a new armature, which I might still have to do, hopefully not. It looks okay, it certainly looks okay. As you can see, the muck that's coming off it. Now, I'll zoom in again and let you see this. Not a wee bit too much. Now, you can see a big difference in that just by a wee bit of cotton bud. It doesn't matter how many cotton buds you use, by the way. Just got to make sure that once you're finished that all the T-cut has been removed. I actually thought this, before I managed to get the face plate right off, I thought it was a 5-pole motor, wasn't it? But it wasn't. It's a Chinese manufacturer. That was the I'd never came across one of these from China. It's always been the British made one I had, which is a wee bit different. I'll show you how to get the tender frame and the motor separated. As you can see, there's still muck coming off, but that's just the T-cut doing its work. You get a nice smooth commutator for the brushes to contact with. Try the other end to see if this. You just got to keep going with this to make sure that there's no more muck. No more muck or T-cut left on the commutator. It's got to be absolutely scrupulously clean. The other thing is the slots between each segment. Let me see if I can. The slots, get that. The slots between the segments, you got to make sure that there's no muck in there either, because it can short out between each segment, and you don't want that. Now, I tried this before to let you see what the readings were. I'll have another go this time. Put the top on the T-cut handy, so there's no spillages. Now, if I pull this back, Want to get it high enough to. There we are. And I will make you see that the readings were. As you can see, 11.8. 11.8, between 11, 12, 11.7, 11.8. That's fine. That's the way it should be. As once again, I can't emphasise enough the multimeter. Imperative if you're going to work on model railway locomotives that you've got a multimeter. Without it, you're working blind. It's just not possible. So rather than spend your money on more locomotives until you've got a multimeter, you're working blind. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is this was the face plate. Now, on the face plate, you've got two wee pegs up here, and you've got two wee pegs at the bottom. So what you do is you put the two at the bottom of the casting. There's two holes. You put the two bottom ones in first, and then push in, and that's it in. So that's the faceplate on. So to get it out, you just, if I can get this to turn, because you've got all these wires still connected, you just stick a screwdriver into one of these holes and just lever the wee peg up, and the thing will come out. So the next thing we're going to do is put back in the brushes. The brushes are fine. I've said this before. The brush, to get the brushes in is no problem. It's getting the springs in, and as you probably remember, one of the springs wouldn't come out and stretched itself beyond redemption. So I've had to. So I'm not even going to try to use the tweezers on these. I think I tried it before and it just did not work. Make sure that the brushes are clean. Just get the brush as near as you can to the hole. Just adjust the light so I can see what I'm doing. This doesn't seem to. The brush doesn't seem to fit the hole. That's a strange, that one. I think I may be fine, but the problem has been at the start. I'll have to come back, so once I find who goes up with this, I'll be back shortly. Right folks, I managed to sort this out. I had to very, very slightly enlarge the holes to get the, so I don't understand how the brushes got like that, but they seem to be fitting out. Just to get them. Just get this brush in. There she goes. Number one brush in. Number two brush in. Now, this is where it, as you well know if you've watched this before, getting the springs in is where the problems start, because when if the springs spring, as I used to say, we're in trouble. Now obviously, if you remember when we took it apart, one of the springs stretched beyond reuse, the other one I managed to coax out, and this is maybe why the thing wasn't working right. So just maybe to spring now. And there it is. There we are. So get one screw and bring the arm over, put it in place. I'm trying to see. got to do is get a spring for the other one, and I'll have to hunt for one. So as I said before, I'll be back shortly. Hello, I've eventually got a spring. It's a slightly different type, I think. So hopefully a real footer. There we are now, we've got that fixed. Wee bit of footer. Now the next thing is the big test, whether it's going to run or not. And I've got my perfect. No problem at all. As you can see, she runs. That's a relief, because you just don't know the amount of smoke that was coming off this when I first started it up, before I even stripped it. So that's a bit of relief on that. She runs perfectly. So the next thing we can do is to put in the centre wheels. Just slips in through there. Now while you've got this stripped, put this in. Make sure it's not jammed, which it has. I must have put it in a bit too far, so just got to undo it a bit with very easy to do. Just prise it out a fraction and it runs. Now it might be a good idea, but maybe not, to take these wheels out as well, because obviously they run in a bearing, and you just watch when you do this, because there's a pickup in there. And once you've got it out, just get my oiler out. So those of you who watched the last video will remember I had practically no oil left. So on just a wee drop of oil, and watch. I notice just make sure that the pickups are clean. Don't press them in too far or they'll bind. So, and the same with the other one. Now, as I said, this pickup's not, that's it, just enough get any muck off them. There. Just watch, as well as that, don't bend the pickups. And there we are. Now, this obviously has to go back in. And put the actually I prefer to put the nose in first, put the front in first, and then just push down in the back. Doesn't seem to want to go actually. There it is, that's it in. But probably, here's me again doing things wrong. Probably before you put it in, I'll show you how to get it out actually. If you just stick a screwdriver down in the front, it should just come out. That's how I got it out before. I don't understand how it not come out now, give it before. There we are, yes it is. You just pull it out, because it's far easier to put the gears in first of all. I think that's not the right gear for that. It should be. That's in. And the other two. Like that. And then the clip just clips under there, and there we are, just all back together. Now we can put it in. Now, we've got that all back in, so she's back as a chassis, so just a wee dab of oil on each of the motor bearings. That, now, I must emphasise that, just a wee dab of oil. Put the top back on the oil again so it doesn't leak. And do another test. Just straighten this out, make sure I've trapped a wire here, I see. Come out. Got it out. Now, I want to make sure no wires are shorting out against anything. Stage. Take these wire brushes off first before I go in. I'll be back in a minute, folks. Okay, folks, we've now discovered the problem. This side spring, for some reason, they seem to be shorter than the ones I had spares, and it wasn't pushing the brush against the commutator. I don't know why it worked first time, but I've substituted the spring for a new one of the new ones. I think they're too small to let you really see what's going on. The brushes were fine. It's just that it was bamboozling when you do one and it works, and then you go to power it again and it doesn't work. But my good tool, the test lamp, gave the show away, because I was getting power on this, but when I put it on the commutator there was no light, so I knew that that brush wasn't hitting the commutator. So I took it out and I pushed the brush forward, and it was quite a wee bit, it wasn't just a wee bit that went forward, so I put one of the stronger springs in the longer ones, and it seems to have sorted it. She's drawn, now the motor's running fine. I can't really tell you what the ampage is because it's that low, it's barely off zero, but of course she's running free, she's no pulling any coaches or anything, so but that's fine by me. Compared with what it was when I got it at first, I know it's a steam train, but the amount of smoke that came off it was terrible, and how it got into that state I just don't know. And just to make sure we're getting all pickups, just touch the wheels, and the same with the other two. It seems reluctant to. Seems reluctant to run. Don't tell me it's packed up again. No, she's alright. Try it again. Hopefully for the last time. Put it back into the chassis. And if we just check the pin at the front of the tender actually works. Well, it won't work because the wire's not in. Silly me. That'll be my next the next job then. I broke the terminal on that, so once I get the thing soldered, I'll be back. So there we are, folks, she's all running. As I said, I broke this wire while stripping it, so I just replaced it with a normal red wire. That's for the pin that runs back to the locomotive to give the power to both sides. The locomotive's live both sides as well. This seems to be a wee wobble on that gear. But apart from that, she's running fine. She's hardly drawn anything at all in amp wise, barely off the zero. That's what you want. No sign of any heat, barely warm, whereas when I got it, it was smoke everywhere, and it was because of the muck that was on the commutator. I don't know what it was, but it was oil or whatever it was. I think the segments in with the slots between the segments, I think they had carbon across them, which was shorting it out as well. But there we are. I hope this has helped you. There was a chap on the one of the sites, motor railway sites, and he had a similar problem, but he just went and bought a new commutator. But because a commutator is dirty, caked with stuff, clean it up and check it with the meter, and that'll tell you if the reading across the segments is basically the same in this way, 11.7 on 2 and 12 on the other. 0.3 is not going to make any difference. It's going to be fine. So there we are. The only thing I've got to do now is with the locomotive. It doesn't have any smoke deflectors on it. Some of them did run without them. I must admit I like the Duchesses with the smoke deflectors on them, so I'll order up a set of them. Apart from that, I was considering changing the name. The other thing that it doesn't come with is carb glazing. I could look at that as well. I don't know whether both windows had it or just one. I'd have to look up. There's some photographs of the locomotives to see. I've still got the back coupling to screw back on. That'll get done as well. But that's this wee workshop finished. As I said, I'm going to do one on roofs. I don't know when that will be, but it'll be pretty soon, I would think. But until then, if you have any questions or comments to make about the workshop, feel free to ask them. If you don't like it, tell us why. If you do like it, tell us why. Not just a like, say this has benefited me, or great workshop, or whatever it is. But hopefully it helped you. Okay, bye for now. Keep on shunting, keep on modelling. Hello folks, I was just looking at that wobbly gear. The only thing that was causing it was the clip wasn't pushing the gear far enough on. So just a wee bend of the thing, we sorted it. It's running quite true now. Just in case you're wondering what was causing that. So catch you later.